Do the thing. That's the end of it. I don't like quitting, but it's like if something is really taking a toll on you, at some level you kind of have to drop it. If it's really affecting you, I basically did what I called the community development. So I created a thread and I had everyone just like tell me what they want, right? And so I took all of that, kind of all those needs and desires and turned them into a design, got them manufactured in China and then sold them. I said, this is what I would guess drugs would feel like. Your robot is only a part of it. Until you can hit all those things, you really don't get to that elite level. The hardest part is just making sure.
From selling CNC enclosures to manufacturing custom electric skateboard parts during the pandemic, today's guest is full of stories when it comes to entrepreneurial pursuits. Through this conversation, you'll gain insights into his fearless approach when it comes to taking calculated risks, the psychology behind his relentless drive for excellence, and how he's mastered the art of turning personal projects into profitable businesses. You'll also learn about his experiences in being a part of a dominating FRC Robotics team and what he's learned from them and how he's giving back to the community that's provided him with so much. Additionally, you'll get to hear why he dropped out of UC Berkeley's #1 engineering and business undergraduate program in order to fully pursue his passion for manufacturing. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a maker at heart, or simply someone who appreciates stories of people who chase their dreams relentlessly, this episode is here to inspire and enlighten you. Welcome to the Machinist Effect, the podcast where we talk to ambitious college students and understand how they're balancing their ambitions with the day-to-day school life. I'm your host, Magnus Allen, and you're about to meet Anshul Bajaj. I really enjoyed how this episode turned out, and as always, please enjoy the episode. Where did your initial interest within manufacturing and engineering come from?
Yeah, so I've always liked making stuff. Like when I was really young, I would make, pencil bow and arrows and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, that was like damn near what I started with. And, went from there just getting more and more advanced, honestly, in that field to where I was making, PVC recurve bows and stuff like that. I got really into it. And from there, it just kind of took off.
Was this in elementary school or was this like...
I would say I probably started, my first one I was like 4 probably. Okay. There's a video of it on YouTube. You can go find it. If you look up my dad's name, you can go find the video. But yeah, from there, then in middle school, I started having access to some more advanced manufacturing technology. So 3D printers, middle school. Yeah. Light duty CNC routers, like we're talking like X-carves and stuff like that. But that really allowed me to take my like general passion to the next level, where I could take ideas, turn them into digital representations, and then have a physical part. So that's really where I got into more advanced technology, and then from there it kind of took off. Then I went to joined a robotics team, had access to industrial equipment, and then yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of amazing things to be introduced to as a child, but how did you even go about navigating this? I mean, I remember the first time I was introduced to CAD. Luckily, I had almost like a hand-holding situation going on because I learned through my robotics team. But at such a young age where you weren't involved, and maybe you were involved, please enlighten me if you were. But like, how did you go about learning all these like softwares, programs? How did you even bring these ideas to life?
Yeah. CAD is like extremely difficult to learn. I mean, you could say it's easy compared to how it used to be, right? Like you can go online, watch some YouTube videos, you can learn. It's cool, yeah. But like, if you really want to get good, it's hard to be taught CAD, if that makes sense, right? You can't, it seemed at least difficult to sit down and be like, you're going to make this robot part and you're going to learn CAD. I never got it. My whole life though, similar to making my little pen bows, I was using computers a lot for video editing or Photoshop or whatever. And that was all, a lot of YouTube learning. Where I was able to learn CAD rapidly is when I started working on personal projects. So during COVID, I knew a little bit of CAD before that. I could make some general stuff for the robot. But when COVID hit, all my friends were at home playing video games, kind of doing nothing, honestly. And that's when I started working on some personal projects. So I started making custom electric skateboard parts. And I was like, I want to make this part. I don't know how. I need to figure it out, right? Like there's no choice. So that's when you put yourself in CAD, you start drawing, you ask questions to people that you know. And that's kind of how I learned CAD. So it was a very organic kind of path.
Was manufacturing skateboard parts one of your like first things that you really went into, or like your very first project that you worked on?
Yeah, it was kind of two that happened simultaneously, but I would say that that's the first one that took off independently. So during COVID, I would say probably a couple months in, when again most people were not doing much, my buddy and I started building custom electric skateboards just for fun. And online,
Very casual.
it's really not that hard. Anyone can do it. And I had access to these technologies at Robotics that no one was using, right? Because everything was shut down. And I just kind of put an offer out there on this forum, the eSkate forum, like, hey, does anyone want anything 3D printed, CNC machine? And from there, I started getting, a few orders. It was not a lot. I started making those and sending those out. People really liked them. I was able to offer, competitive pricing. And then I saw a huge gap in the market for a heatsink for a speed controller. So I basically did what I called the community development. So I created a thread and I had everyone just like tell me what they want, right? And so I took all of that kind of all those needs and desires and turned them into a design, got them manufactured in China, and then sold them. Probably, I think the first batch was like 150 around the world. And yeah, and at the time, like, okay, that's not a ton, but like for someone who's 16, I was shocked. I was like, how the heck is this even possible?
Wait, repeat that. So you said you were outsourcing the parts to China?
Yeah,
or?
so the original plan was just to make them myself, right? Like you go to the CNC, get 15 chunks of aluminum, hog them out, go anodize it. But when I put my Google form out and there's 60 people interested, and I have this very light skill in machining, I'm like, there's no shot I do this in time. So my buddy at the time, who was doing sourcing, so he was connecting with customers and then sourcing parts in China, I worked with him and he helped me get them manufactured.
Was this intimidating to you as like as a teen in high school, like to build out a business that was pretty successful for such a early young age? I mean, I love the point that you touched on where you basically said that you started with the Google form, you asked if the community would want this or had this problem, and then instead of ordering supplies like immediately, you essentially just fulfilled that demand rather than putting all that risk on yourself. So how did you know that was like the right thing to do, or like what was kind of the mindset going into starting this business?
Yeah. I've been asked that about the risk thing a lot. I really like risk. It's just like, I don't know. It's like life's boring without it, I think. I try to be very smart with how I took on risk for this project though, which is I think what you're talking about, right? It's like so this was calculated. Yeah, so I got feedback, I got, potential orders, then I straight up took money and then I got them manufactured. So I was very careful, right? It's like, that first total was probably in the, $10,000 to $15,000 range, and like I didn't have that. I couldn't back that if I lost it, right? So I was very calculated. Margins were unreal on that product. So I made a ridiculous amount for my age. I was extremely happy with myself. But there is kind of, there's a problem with this market, which I found out really soon because I stopped doing electric skateboard parts pretty quickly. It's a very small niche market. And once you sell to a certain group of people, you ain't selling anymore. So
right.
Yeah.
So to people who like have been able to identify like a problem within their niche that's like hardware based, such as what you made, how would you advise them to go about navigating like everything from the financial processing of that, how to communicate, how long they should ask for demand, or how long they should spend asking about like who's interested? Like, do you have any psychologies behind that or any tips behind that?
I don't know. It's hard. Again, it's like this was a very, very small thing in the grand scheme of things, right? It's like you really couldn't apply. Like, look, again, I was really young, right? I was 16. I did a horrible job with financial management. Not in terms of like, I knew exactly where the money was. I knew it was coming in. I knew it was going out. But it was just like through PayPal. I wasn't like properly tracking anything. Wasn't properly reporting. Right? Like it makes sense. But in terms of the community aspect, I think that's what made the product so successful, right? Had I just said like, hey, does anyone want a heat sink for your speed controller? And they said yes, and I went out and made it, I'm sure I would have sold like 20 units. But like what was special about this is that it literally was developed by the community, right? So it was like what made my unit so special is that it could be used with all the speed controllers on the market. So typically you could actually go out and buy a heat sink and it would support the one controller you have, and that was it. This had a unique mounting plate that allowed you to attach like 6 or maybe even more speed controllers that were available on the market. And like the only reason I was able to get there is because people were like, oh, well, I have this and I want it to work. And so this kind of back and forth with the community on a public forum, you can go, the thread is still around. You can go look at it. It both helped me make a better product and made people feel like they have a buy-in, right? They felt connected to the product and they were like, oh yeah, like I want to have the product that I made. So people had like a piece of it, which was really cool.
When I explored into making like a product for like a community, I think that one of the fears I had was that someone would immediately kind of grab onto the idea and make it profitable for themselves rather than me being able to reach that opportunity to be able to do so. Was that a fear for you at all, that like someone would steal the idea
No.
like quickly?
No, that's the benefit of having a, total cap of like 500 units or whatever, right? It's like there really isn't any room for that to happen. Right. So that's why I was saying kind of what I did doesn't necessarily apply to a bigger scale, because like, yeah, that's always an issue, right? But in my space, it was not an issue.
So tell me about how you initially got into like electric skateboards. I mean, it seems like it's something the electric vehicle infrastructure, like what do they call it, sidewalk vehicles now? Or I feel like I only saw more of them once I came to college. I didn't really see a very big market back then. So how did
the term I think they use right now is PEV, personal electric vehicle.
Personal electric vehicle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I started just like longboarding, I think when I was probably 10 or 11, I don't know. And then I saw an ad one Black Friday. I must have been, I don't know how old I was, probably 7th grade. It was really cheap Chinese electric skateboard. I got it. It was a blast. It was really, really fun. It was like, $290 or whatever. And then it broke, obviously, like, 8 months later, I got another one. And then from there, I was just like, okay, I love this thing, electric skateboards. I love making stuff. Let's just make one. I'm sure it's like not that hard. And it's not. I mean, my first one was terrible, absolutely awful. Nothing really lined up, made weird sounds. It was slow. I mean, the cheap Chinese one that I bought, a year before was probably better. But yeah, and then it just went from there. And I'd still do some work in that field when I can, just for fun. But I never go into it assuming I'm going to make any money.
Right, you just do it for the passion. Yeah. Did you branch out to any other PVs, such as like bicycles or scooters at all?
I made an electric bike for fun, but no, it's just I really like the electric skateboard thing.
Like the electric skateboard.
I think electric scooters are funny. I don't know. The whole community kind of clowns on them, so I'll just leave it at that.
You're someone who takes like a bit. You said you love taking risks. I'm assuming you're just riding these with no helmets, no nothing, or are you more safe about your health?
I would say I started like that, on the smaller boards going 20 miles per hour, but now it's like I do take safety into an account, because like my current longboard right now, which is a custom that I made with a buddy up in Lodi, so he's actually local. That thing will do like 50 miles per hour. Oh my god! Yeah. I've never gone that fast, but like when you have that much power in your hands, it's like you need to take safety.
Right. And from just like following like some of your stories that you have on your Instagram, you regularly participate in like racing competitions with these.
I don't know about regularly. I've done a couple. I'm terrible. I just think it's a blast. I'm awful. Yeah, I mean, there's pros that like they practice every day. They build like race specific boards. They whip it. It's like on tracks they're beating me by like 20 seconds, right? But like it's fun. And it's like I go to these events more so for the networking, and if for some reason someone has a cool project that I think might be profitable, I'll try to get in there. But yeah, I just go to hang out with these guys that I've met over the last few years. We do group rides, which I enjoy a lot. It's just like we do one on the Strip in Vegas where the whole group, which is like 200 riders, takes over the whole Strip. We were riding on the Strip, right? It's like you can never go do that by yourself.
That sounds hilarious. Yeah. Like I'm imagining like bicycle gangs or like just a motorcycle gang.
Yeah, that's
instead
what
it's replaced with just a bunch of skateboards.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, that's so funny. But tell me about like these are I feel like these are niche. Maybe they're not as niche as I think they are. But like, how do you tell me about like some of the stories you've had with connecting with people at these events? Like, who do you run into?
Yeah, they're incredibly niche. I just run into more people like me, just like maybe a little bigger. Like this one guy, Kevin from San Diego. He runs a company called Boardnamics. He destroyed me in terms of numbers because he was like really one of the first guys making affordable electric skateboard parts. So if you're building your first board, you are buying Boardnamics components. It's just like you have to. It's like unless you want to spend like $5,000, you have to buy his parts and incredible value. And he's a cool guy. He's like 21 or he's probably a little older now.
I had Alan here on the podcast who's trying to build like a flying car. He told me that a lot of parts that he buys are from like Taobao. Is that not the same with electric skateboards? Is it not cheaper to just go to overseas?
No, I don't really know exactly what he's buying, but it's like the drone market is way bigger, right? And like this is all solved stuff. It's like we are making really, really niche, like super specialized parts. Like there's no market, right? Like the Chinese, there's no point in them copying it to sell components. Now there are manufacturers who have copied board designs and who are selling those. And those are very popular. Like companies like Meepo, you go online and buy their board, and like there is a lot of influence from both the custom market and just like other high-end manufacturers.
So sorry, I cut you off with like your interaction with this guy that you met. All good. But it's just like
it's just like a cool guy. I don't know. He just does the same thing I do. He just did it better. He found better products and he did well.
And just talking to him, I assume was like it propelled you to like
we just like hang out. We're buddies, we just talk about stuff. It's like it's very casual. We just have fun. Cool events. I don't know.
All right, that's sick. So, we've touched, you've hinted at it a little bit, but you were part of a very dominated and feared FRC Robotics team, 4414 Hightide, and now you're in a position where you're mentoring them. So I want to know from you, like, what makes a good robot and a good FRC team?
Oh, man. Okay. Well, we could do a whole freaking episode just about this. Man.
Hearing it right from the guy who's kicking everyone's ass in this space.
It's not just me, man. The team is really good. It's like the students are this year and last year were absolutely fantastic. So I graduated 2022. So this was only my second year as a mentor. In terms of what it takes to be a good team, it's a lot of different elements. And this is very obvious to a lot of people, but some people overlook it. It's like your robot is only a part of it. Your driver is only a part of it. Your strategy is only a part of it. Your scouting is only a part of it. And until you can hit all those things, you really don't get to that elite level. And so that's what takes you to the next level is being able to kind of not dominate, but like, accomplish success in all of those areas. So things like aligned selection. I don't know how familiar your audience is with FRC, but your strategy and your aligned selection is extremely important. In who your partners are and who you play with. And that's something that I mentor the team a lot in is scouting and strategy. In terms of what makes a good robot, it's a really general question because it's very different for different teams. It's like our strength is manufacturing speed. So like, a robot that a team could build in 4 weeks, we could probably have manufactured and built in 3 days. But they may clap us in strategic design. They might, right? It's just they might have that experience. So it's very different for different teams. I would say in general, you get done early. So the robot needs to be driving like, week 4 of build season. So you have time to practice. Because for most teams, building a simple robot that is highly effective at accomplishing the game tasks, and then who has a driver that's unbelievable, will beat any really crazy engineered robot that has no driver practice. Right. Typically, that's not always true. And so that's why I say it varies. But like a great example is 1678 out of Davis, California. They built a simple robot that I wouldn't say everyone can build, but a lot of teams could build, and they just go out and clap everyone. They're on Einstein 10 years in a row, right? So that would be my advice. Our team does not necessarily follow that advice. We build a lot of robot just because we're able to. And our driver ends up getting less practice. And you can see it. If you watch our week 1, you can tell that Citrus is better than us, right? But our robot has more automation and is able to do more things. That doesn't necessarily mean we're better. We're not. Citrus beats they're fantastic, right? So it's different for every team.
So tell me a little bit more about this team. Like, are you guys like a high school team or are you like a community team?
Yeah. So we're a community team. It's kind of a long story, but the like kids and mentors who founded our team were on a different team originally, and they just felt like they wanted more freedom and they wanted to kind of take a new direction. So they started their own team. And we just work out of like a manufacturing shop in Ventura, Southern California.
Is it like a manufacturing shop owned by a private company?
Yeah, it's a sheet metal company. Our lead mentor's dad owns the shop. It's been in their family for a while. It's not a massive facility. It's like it's like a medium-sized sheet metal manufacturing company. But we have a little room in there, and when the employees aren't working, we're able to utilize the machines and stuff like that.
How are you able to teach other people how to manufacture at the speed that the team demands? That's like your most defining. That's one of the defining traits of your team. And I just imagine someone wanting to approach the team, wanting to learn. But how do you make sure that you're able to train them to be at the level that you guys are?
Yeah, having really good processes in place is really important. When I joined the team, it was the team's first year. So, I wasn't a founding student by chance, but like I did help build the team, right? Like I constructed our first robot. I put together the first drivetrain. So it's like I've been there from the beginning. We were not good at training back then. I did not learn the manufacturing skills nearly as quickly as a student would today. And that's just because we have created really solid processes for learning stuff and for actually completing the manufacturing. So it's like students go through. It's not even structured. It's just like they make parts. They do it in the summer, in the off season. They're making parts for an off season robot that they've designed. So they feel this like buy-in, right? It's the same thing. When someone feels connected to something, they will put in more effort. They're doing the CAD, they're camming for the laser, for the CNC, and they just spend a lot of time doing it. It's just a lot of practice, and you get it done. There's no secret sauce.
It's just hard work and putting in the effort and giving them the opportunity to do so, right? That's very cool. How do you guys approach like innovating a robot and making like the perfect thing? I know you said you're basically able to rapidly prototype. So is it about creating a robot, like a rough draft, and then playing around with it, seeing that there's issues, and then just building it up again?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I would say in FRC, there's less innovation by a lot than there used to be. Because the games at some level are all the same, right? 2022, 2020, 2017, 2016, 2012, I'll stop there. You just picked up balls and you shoot them, right? And it's like, it's all the same damn thing. Different size of the ball, but sure, it's all the same thing. So it's like there is less innovation there. It's more about optimization. There's a lot more software stuff, new motors and stuff that allow you to move faster and have more torque and stuff like that. There are very small things you can innovate on where you can get more performance out of. And I would say this is probably why we won championship 2023. We added a 12 motor swerve, or well, I guess you would say that's what people called it, but it's a three Falcon swerve module. So there are 2 motors on the drive and 1 on the turning. Okay. Most teams only had 1 on the turning and 1 on the drive. So we were able to drive significantly faster, right? Which allowed us to put up more game pieces than we would have had we had 1, right? So it's like that is the innovation that we made. But like 3 motor swerve has been done before. It's just like that year, no one thought to do it, right? No one saw the potential. So it's like those are some of the things that you do. This year was really interesting. We didn't do super well. We lost out in our division. But finals were extremely interesting. 1690, a team from Orbit, or a team from Israel, they're called Orbit. They won, and they had just like the most interesting little robot I've ever seen. It's like this flat, really simple design. The shooter pivots up. There's no turret, nothing like that. The climb was really janky. The trap was really janky, but that thing was incredible at driving. They had fantastic strategy. They almost never missed a shot. Right. And it's just like they were able to win against an alliance that everyone would have. I mean, I would have put money on the other alliance winning. Right. It was a California powerhouse alliance. I'd put my life savings on that. Thank God I didn't. Right. And it's like, it's like this has gotten us to rethink because we would never have built a robot like that. We wouldn't have. And now we go like, maybe there is a lot of value in being done even earlier. Right. We have an even more simple design. And it's like if it's not working out, like just change it later on, right? So rather than we spend a lot of time thinking like, what do we need to get right? Like we are worried that we're going to miss something. And now it's like, this is kind of how I have started to live life and do, you know, other things. It's like, just go do it. Just like make it happen.
Just
right?
go do
stop,
it, make it
Stop
happen.
thinking so much.
Right. You don't have to be like the best in everything.
It's really
Just
hard to
if you
do
can
though.
master one.
It's really hard to do.
Right.
You know, so yeah, this year was really eye opening watching them. Like they were extremely dominant. It was really cool.
Right. And I'm surprised that you said you didn't do well this season, because like I thought one of the main emphases were like having a swerve train, because movement was like a very big piece of this year's game. Right?
The 3-motor swerve was last year. Right. And I'll just share this because it's funny. But our robot would knock a lot of other robots over because last year the way the game was designed, a lot of teams, like, you know, lower tier teams, ended up with really high CG robots. So they would try to play defense. We would contact them and their whole robot would flip over. What? And so yeah, it was not the best, right? So first actually banned the 3-motor swerve after last season. So yeah, this year we should have regular swerve. And going back to what you were asking, at this point the whole competition is all swerves. Almost every team is running swerve. So that's not a differentiating factor at all in any way. No, we just, you know, we had slightly worse execution. Our division was not difficult, but, you know, things didn't happen the way we wanted them to. It happens, you know. Schedule was difficult, just how it is. Definitely a departure, you know, like 2022, we were on Einstein finals. We lost to 254. 2023, we won the whole thing. It was really cool. I expected to be back on Einstein this year. Didn't happen, but there's next year, right?
What is the most rewarding part about robotics? You know, I just recently talked to Arya, who's more involved within the VEX robotics space, but I just love, when I was in robotics, I just love the atmosphere of essentially putting yourself through so much pain and then seeing it compete. Maybe you don't always win, you don't always get recognized for it, but it's so rewarding to see everyone's efforts come together. What would you say you find to be the most rewarding part of robotics?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It's there's a lot of parts that are really cool. Someone asked me this recently, and what I said was that I've never done drugs, but this is
That's
what
bigger of an opening, right?
This is what I said this is what I would guess drugs would feel like, and it's just this extreme rush of adrenaline that you get when you're watching your robot compete. You know, it's a whole team effort. There's so many different aspects. I bet it's very similar to what people get out of team sports. I never really got into team sports. All the sports I did were solo. So rock climbing, surfing, things like that. Never really part of a team. Never really true competition in that regard. So I think you get a lot of that kind of competitiveness out of it, which is really cool. And then I also like how there's just so many different elements, right? It's like you have to build the robot, you have to have the strategy, and then you have to put the robot on the field and compete. So it's like you have to do all these different things and execute every single one at the highest level to win. And when you see all of that happen and come together, it's incredible. It's really cool.
I thought it was interesting. How would you describe what like the best moment in your robotics career was?
Best moment.
I'm sure like championship is up there, but maybe you have something else.
Worst moment is extremely easy. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one second. Best moment, probably 2023 championship. It's like, that was probably one of the most dominant alliances in the last like 15 years. So like, it sounds really bad saying it, but like, once we had our alliance, we got through the division, I was like very confident in us winning, right? And it's like, usually you don't have that, and you shouldn't ever go into it assuming you're going to win, which I did not. I never once was like, oh yeah, we won. It's like, no, there's a lot of work to do still. But, that felt really, really good. 2022, which was only our second championship appearance, right? With COVID, so 19 was our first year, 20 nothing, 21 nothing. 2022 was our second championship appearance, and we got all the way to Einstein finals, right? So winning the division was unbelievable. I mean, that was crazy. We won the Einstein round robins. We had the highest record on there. Unbelievable. Worst moment, losing in finals to 254. It was like absolutely crushing, right? Like, and sometimes you go into those being like, oh yeah, the other alliance is just significantly better. Like, there's a good chance we lose. This was like, no, like we have a good shot at winning, and just we didn't execute as well as we could have, and things happen, right? But like that was absolutely crushing. It's my last year as a student. So.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So that was the worst moment.
Oh yeah.
And then you said the best moment was what?
Yeah, winning 2023.
Winning. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it was like incredible, obviously.
Right.
That or yeah, I would say it was that. But also winning the division in 2022 was really cool.
So as like was is 4-4-1 like, are you guys a small team? Like I know some teams.
Smaller, yeah. It's like 2022. We were pretty small. I would say like total students was probably 14 max.
Right.
Now we're significantly bigger. I think last year we were probably in like the 22 range. This year probably more like 24, 25. Can't go any bigger. We don't have space. Like I mean physical space. There's nowhere to stand. So
I asked that because some teams are like 40, 50 people, and like going back
even bigger.
Right.
Like, there are teams that are significantly bigger.
Going back to what you were saying about like great FRC team masters everything from scouting, the robots, and manufacturing. Like how were you guys able to balance everything? Is everyone just a jack of all trades? Are you sectioned off into like thirds, or like how are you guys able to nail, maybe not nail, but be very good at all those atmospheres or hemispheres?
Yeah, I think your point about jack of all trades is really interesting. 2022, that was absolutely the case. I always consider myself jack of all trades. I can do manufacturing, I can do design, I can do assembly, I can do scouting, I can do strategy. I can't really do software. I'm sure I could learn it. I can do some of the electrical, right? I'm not the best at any one of those things. So it's like, had we been more specialized in 2022, probably would have won, right? You know, elements of our robot probably would have been better. Now, with the team being larger, we're able to do that specialization. There are kids on the team who only manufacture. That's just all they do. There are kids on the team that only design. And the drawback of that is like, yeah, if they need to now do something unrelated to robotics, they need to design, CAM, manufacture, assemble it, they might not be able to do it immediately, right? They could. They're very smart students. They'll learn it all. But in terms of from a robotics standpoint, they are the best at that. They just are, right? That's all they do, and they're really good at it. And I would say like that execution really showed through in 2023. Our team is, you know, compared to other teams, yeah, it's small, but like for what FRC is, it's a good size. The teams that have, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 kids, if you went and asked them, how many of them actually touch the robot? How many of them make parts? How many of them assemble? How many of them just do like social media or whatever, which is important. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's like that is not necessarily contributing to the success of the team in terms of performance. So having a team that's 25 with the proper, you know, resources is more than plenty. It's
So
really doable.
for if like let's say a mentor of a team is listening to this and they do have a big team, would you recommend that they give more attention to every single person? Do you recommend that they cut down their team, or do you think that sometimes teams shouldn't be that amazing in the sense that like FRC is just more of an environment where they can introduce themselves to a variety of like what's it called? A variety of
Fields.
right.
Yeah, I
fields
get what
or,
you're saying.
Yeah, like electricity, you know, electronics, manufacturing, mechanical assembly, et cetera, et
I
cetera.
mean, I think you just answered your question, right? It's like, what are you trying to achieve?
Right.
Is the goal to build a robot, play the game, and win? Like, is that anywhere in your roadmap? If that's the case, you're taking very different. You're making very different choices than you are if your goal is I just want to introduce everyone to this field of robotics. Right. And the interesting thing is like when you do take the second approach, which is I just want to introduce everyone to the field of robotics. If the team is not making progress towards a goal, right? If they're just kind of flopping, that's how I think about it, right? It's like, are those students actually being inspired, and are they being connected to those fields? Are they, you know, they learn whatever programming they can, whatever, and the robot goes out there, it spins around a couple times and dies. Like I mean, seriously, right? So after the season, are they like, wow, I love programming. This is so cool. I'm sure there's some cases where that's true, but like, is your approach actually inspiring students? Hard to say. I think there's a lot of cases where the answer is no. I'm going to use Citrus as an example again. They have a massive team and they're incredibly good. So it's, you know, they have a lot of mentors who are really good at you know, finding spots for students to make an impact. They're really good at all of this stuff. So that's why I always use them as an example. But there are other teams that are really big that are not nearly as effective.
And like I think that's what the most exciting part of my high school was, when we got introduced to having we got the funding for 4 Haas mini mills, you know.
Dang,
Yeah,
that's awesome,
so
dude.
that was really cool.
Yeah, we don't get access to any of that funding, you know, like, no, I mean, it's like, because all of that is school funding. So it's like when you get those cool grants that are like, oh yeah, we can get 4 mini meals, we don't get access to those. So it's like we have to do a lot of just like third party fundraising, a lot of, you know, cool, really good parents donate, which is awesome. You know, we really benefit from family support, but also just asking local companies is a big thing. I'll just shout out Haas right now. Haas donates, you know, their factory is only, you know, 10 minutes away from our, we're all right there. So they support the team. And then I also, this is something I started in 2021. I host an off-season robotics event in Ventura. And so they started supporting, this year, I think will be their 3rd year supporting now. Oh, wow. And yeah, I mean, it makes a huge difference. It's like, you know, they help us out a lot. And basically allow us to put on this event.
For such a big field, like what are the logistics behind that? Like
oh
hosting a
man,
whole
dude,
event?
that's literally the hardest thing. It's like, again, this is another example where it's like, I wanted to do it, I make it happen. But it's like, and putting on the event is not scary, right? People were like, oh, that could be terrifying. It's just freaking difficult, man. And the hardest part, the hardest part is just making sure that all the different equipment is available on the same day. Once you figure that out, you're all good. I mean, truthfully, you're all good.
So the capital wasn't even an issue of like being able to build everything together.
I'm never worried about the money because we're fairly scrappy, right? So we could figure out how to do the event with half the budget. It wouldn't be as good, but we could do it, right? So I'm not worried about the money. It's like, is the field available? Is all the electronics we want available? It's just like we have to just make sure it's all gonna happen. And then I would say the second hardest part is just getting volunteers to come and coordinate and stuff like that. Right. Volunteers are what allow these events to happen. Without the volunteers, I'm sitting there in the middle of the field by myself, screwing around. Right? It's like we have 50 volunteers that come usually from all around the state. And they make the whole thing happen. Without them, I would have no idea what to do. So,
but how do you like benefit from like hosting an event like this?
How do I personally benefit?
How do you personally benefit?
I don't know. It's like I'm making an impact on the community, and I'm giving back to the community that gave me so much, I guess. 2021, it was like, I would say, small part selfishness, small part giving back, small part like let's get the team back on it, right? So this was after 2020 was canceled, then 2021 was canceled. We were the first event, I think in California, definitely SoCal, that teams could attend. We're the first one. So we planned this, we had very few teams, probably like 18, I think. And then some teams brought second robot, which was really cool. But this was the first opportunity for many students to compete in first, and an opportunity for students that hadn't competed in 2 years to compete. Right. So personally, I was like, I want to play robotics, so let me do this thing. But the other aspect was like, I want to get our team and other students engaged in robotics before the next legitimate season. So that was kind of my thought process.
I love that so much, and honestly, all these words are hyping me up so much. So I wish I was back in my robotics era. You
should come to Tidal. That's the event we host. It'll be October.
Feel
free to come. Yeah.
Where is it hosted?
Ventura.
Ventura. Okay,
yeah, it's at the fairgrounds. It's a cool, $25 flight away. So feel free to come.
Yeah. And to everyone who's listening, there's that too. In terms of who you guys are attracting, how are you able to bring in like the driven people? Like, how do you advertise? How does this team advertise itself?
We don't advertise at all, and we don't. I mean, we get, I would say, fair few applications, but not tons. It's not ridiculous by any means. Right. We're in like kind of a weird area. Ventura's kind of not isolated, but like there's only a few teams within like a 50-mile, maybe not 50, but like within a 30-mile radius, there's only a few teams. So there's maybe just not a lot of interest in that area. But yeah, I would say we get a few applications every year, maybe in like the 10-ish range. A lot of friends of friends. That's usually where you get the best students, because it's like the good students, if they're friends with people and they recommend them, they're probably pretty good. You could probably guess that they're pretty good. The school I went to, in 9th grade, I went to just standard high school. And then I switched in 10th grade into like this independent study kind of hybrid thing, where you only go in like once or twice a week, which was sick because I have way more time for robotics. Right. We get a lot of students from there, and they're cracked because they don't have to spend as much time at school, and they can CAD during the day or, whatever it is. So like last year, so 2024, our driver, programmer, other programmer, one of our main CAD designers, all from there. So it's like it's really cool to get students from there because they have a lot of time.
For sure. Yeah. And I think you touched on a really interesting point there. Do you think a lot of people should be spending less time in academics in high school and pursuing something in order to reach a level of proficiency being able to reach a high proficiency in some field by the time they're in college?
Yeah, I think so at some level. I think high school is more important in general than college, right? I mean, that's the whole point. So it's like, I don't think we should go full specialization in high school. I think that's a big mistake. But I think integrating more of this kind of stuff in the curriculum is really important. I actually what would I have been, 8th grade, I started a nonprofit with a couple kids at my school and a teacher who is, one of my lifelong mentors at this point, to basically achieve this, right? So the goal was to integrate STEM education directly into classrooms of various subjects, right? So it's like STEM does not just belong in a wood shop, right, or a science class. It's like you can integrate these kinds of technologies and this kind of learning into a math class and a language arts class, whatever.
Build something today, essentially, right?
Exactly.
Like that immediate factor.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So, if for people who are exploring manufacturing right now as a field of study in high school, whether it's through robotics or through their own means of interest, what would you say are the 3 things they need to hone on, or it can exceed more than 3, less than 3? You said you've optimized pretty much how the processes that you do for your robotics company. So I'm interested in what makes a good manufacturer, I guess, or what makes a good engineer? I guess those are 2 different questions.
Yeah, it is 2 different questions. I would also say I happen to do a lot of manufacturing, but that's not necessarily where I'm not the best manufacturer. I'm fine. I do it because I have to. It's I want to make stuff. You have to manufacture it, right? Yeah, I would say just okay, I'll answer this question slightly differently. And if I was hiring someone in general who I wanted to be able to do this kind of thing, which was, whatever we're talking about, whatever I'm doing, basically, I would want them to be able to do the whole process. So I want someone who's able to work in CAD, who can handle the cam and stuff like that, and then who can turn around a finished part, which is very different than if I'm hiring someone as a CNC operator, because a CNC operator does not do CAD, does not do cam. They're
Green
just good
pushers.
At
green button pushers.
Yeah, basically. But they have metrology skills. They can measure the parts, make sure they're correct. They understand how to use the machine. They can look at parts and figure out what's wrong. They can look at tool wear and stuff like that. It's very different than someone who's able to do the whole process. So it's I would say if you want to go in at a high level and not just be that green button pusher, you got to learn the whole thing. And it's easier now than ever. I said earlier it's hard. I still think it's hard, but it's easier now than ever. You have access to YouTube. Community colleges have fantastic manufacturing programs. So maybe you go in there and maybe they teach you the green button pushing, but you need to know that, right? Even if you're at a higher level. Yeah. Exactly. So utilize all the resources you have. YouTube's a big one. It's all the computer stuff can be learned on your own. Just do it. Start designing stuff. Figure out how to make it.
So for a lot of these things, for a lot of the projects that you've been mentioning so far, you've always mentioned that you went into it with a partner. But I'm assuming there were a lot of things that you went in on your own. What is the value in learning something with someone else? And also, how do you find people to do it with? Because I think that's something I struggle with a lot. I have great ideas, but it's partly driven by fear of asking and I don't want to use the word begging, but begging for someone to essentially hop on this journey with you. And I feel there's a level of a shamelessness that I need to overcome in order to
damn near, you just got to get over it. And that's part of it. And it's hard, I know. And you said that, or for the stuff that I've done, that I've gone in with a partner, that's true. It's been true in some cases. The electric skateboard thing was all personal. I mean, I didn't have any partners in that. Another business, we don't really have to talk about it, but for a long time I made CNC enclosures. That was probably more successful than the electric skateboard thing, just because it's a bigger market. That I did go into with a partner. I had someone who did more of the design stuff, and I handled more of the business and kind of front end stuff. So yeah, I've done a lot of the partner stuff. And the cool thing about getting a partner, and this is kind of how you pitch it to them, which is, it might be kind of what you're asking, which is like, or how do you get them to buy in? It's like, you're good at something and they're good at something else, probably. And you probably want to take advantage of that thing that they're good at. And they probably want to take advantage of the thing you're good at. So it's like, hey, dude, like I want to do this thing. You're really good at design and, whatever. And I'm good at the other thing that we need, business, manufacturing, whatever it is. So I think if we get together, we can make this work. And I think that's like, when you hear that, if you're being asked, you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense to me. I'd like to try it. As for like doing things on your own and getting over the fear of like asking, it's just like, again, utilize the resources you have. So YouTube exists, but it's not perfect. And there's a lot of things that need to be done like in person that you can't accomplish through something like that. So it's like, yeah, utilize the people that ask them, just like send them a message, right? You did robotics, a lot of mentors on your old team and other teams, right? Just reach out, be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. I really don't know how. I know you have some expertise in this field. Can you help me out? And I can guarantee you 95% of them will say yes.
Is there a common thread between like where do you find most of these people? Is it like LinkedIn, or I know you touched on YouTube, or people around you in school? Or all these just people you know personally?
Yeah, it's mostly not been school. I would say the only one that has been school was in middle school. The teacher that I founded that nonprofit with, I mean, he's fantastic. We still keep in touch today. And it's like, in some ways, his skills are very different, right? Like, if you gave him a Haas and asked him to design something and make it, like, he would have no idea, right? But he's really good at getting you in on the ground floor. He has really good understanding of just like making things in general, right? And how to motivate students and stuff. Like, he's really good at that. So it's like, you have to kind of find your path, and it's like, you have to start at the bottom. Who can help you there? Then at the next step, who can help you there? So it was so I got a lot from him. Then from Robotics, our lead mentor, JJ, he helped me a lot. It's like, I learned a ton from him, mostly during COVID, me just like bothering him, like, dude, I want to make this. How do I do it? And he sends me, 2 sentences back, and I try to figure out what that means and make it happen. And so, yeah, it's just like, you have to just ask, and you might get denied, and you just have to be okay with it, right?
Can you tell me a little example of like what one of those like wisdom pieces might look like, or like those 2 sentences that mean absolute gibberish that you need to learn?
I mean, this is kind of a boring one, but like, one that comes to mind immediately is, I would say probably a couple months into COVID, I needed to make these like aluminum panels on the CNC router in my garage. And at that point, I had been using like very simple CAM programs, just like plunge and cut, which is really bad for the tool, really bad for cutting, whatever. So I just messaged him, and he just like spat out all of the information as if I was supposed to know what it means. He's like, yeah, spindle speed, whatever, chip load, this, that. And he's like, use a ramp tool path. I had no idea what any of it meant, but I had it right there, right? So it's like, now I just need to look up what all this stuff is and figure out how it comes together. And you do that, and you try it, and you go, oh, yeah, it works. So that's what comes to mind, as far as something like that.
So when I'm learning something new, I feel like there's this moment where I feel like I'm putting in so much effort to try to learn something, and I'm getting very little return out of it. Like, either it's spending 4 hours to just realize, oh my gosh, I just needed to add a 0 to this, maybe, or some like this tolerance was just too high. How do you kind of face that kind of stress of like, what is it? The stress of not progressing? Because I know something that you're someone who likes to learn about a lot of different things, or does that not like really come to you?
It has before. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that. It sucks for everyone. If you're doing something and you're not progressing, it's terrible. Who wants to do that? Yeah, sometimes you call it quits. I've done that before. It's like, I'm working on something, I can't figure it out. I'm done. It's just not happening. I don't know.
Okay, it's like, not that deep type.
No, it's not. It's really not.
Okay. Well, all these different types of ventures have essentially led you now to a point where you have your own manufacturing shop, right?
Yeah, kind of.
So,
kind of.
I saw one of the most funny, or I wouldn't even say funny, but I thought it was amazing. Like, I saw in your story that you were basically wheeling in a brand new Haas, what was it, VF23?
VF2.
VF2.
And I'll correct you, it's not brand new. That thing's ancient.
Really?
I bought it used because I could not afford a brand new
I was about to say, like, how would you able to afford like $123,000 machine?
No, it's not that much. I think all in with all the tools and stuff I need, it was like 50 grand, but it's still a lot. Yeah. Right.
What made you reach that decision rather than continuing to use like the machine shops that were around you?
I will answer that very simply. There are no accessible machine shops around here.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I mean, I tried. I literally needed some parts made, and I was willing to pay a company around here. I called 3. 2 did not pick up or get back to me. The other one said, "I'll call you back later today," and I never heard anything. So like, screw it. Let's go buy a machine. I was bored in school. I wanted something to do. Let's go get the machine.
I love the way you just like present these. It's just like, you know, you have the time, you have this curiosity, and you just full send it. It's like, you know, it is. I love it. So tell me, like, you're in university right now. You've done all these amazing things. What is the point of college to you?
Oh man, dude, we could do a whole episode on college too. It's like, yeah, I see a lot less value in college than I used to. And I think, you know, this push that like everyone needs to go is wrong. You know, the trades are fantastic. Right now, I forget exactly what the statistic is. I think it's 50% of new jobs don't require a college degree. Right. A lot of tech jobs don't require a college degree. There's fantastic certifications out there. Yeah, I struggle with it a lot. I don't see as much value in it. Hard sciences, I get it. But it's like, you know, even some engineering, a lot of the humanities don't need college degrees, man.
Right. Yeah. So what was kind of the idea of starting out? Like, what would, you know, I'm sure you had the confidence to some degree, like you have right now, that was like, I don't need this to be successful in life. So what was the value proposition in your head of college? Sure.
So, I mean, I was admitted, just as you were, for MET, right, as a dual engineering business program. Which sounded fine. I was like, yeah, those are the two things I like. If I'm going to school, I may as well go do those two things. Yeah. And I thought, and I did meet a lot of people who were like-minded and you know, high-performing students who are great for the network, right? They're both cool people and people that you can connect with for future projects, which is really cool. I would say after my first semester, at that point, I was already, you know, starting to consider leaving. Just like I was not getting the value that I thought I was going to get out of it. And I think a lot of students shared the same sentiment. At this point, I have decided now to leave school and actually start working full time.
How are you so sure in this decision? Did you ever have to consult anyone, or is this all out of your own confidence?
Dude, it's like right now me saying it maybe sounds, you know, highly confident, and it is at this point now that I've made the decision. But man, this is probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. You know, it's like clicking off a several $100,000 estimate or something, or taking on a large project doesn't really affect me. But this, for some reason, was really difficult to make. And I couldn't really figure out why. I think it's like, you know, we teach kids that like college is like the most important thing ever. It's not. And we just like, we've been groomed to think that this is like, you know, extremely important and like the biggest decision of your life, when I don't really think it is. But I definitely went back and forth quite a bit, talked to a lot of different people, students, you know, personal mentors of mine, other people just in industries, both with college degrees and without. And at this point, it seems like this is the right call to make.
Right. And I can definitely like reflect on that. I mean, I'm nowhere at the level of you where I dropped college entirely because I still feel like I face like parental pressure. But
I do too, man.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, of course, but like I was able to get around it. You just talk a lot, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so were you raised on like the notion also of like this is college, like college is the only way, and so it was I'm sure it was hard to break it.
Dude, I'm Indian. What do you think?
Right.
It's like, of course, right? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult choice, especially with something as prestigious as like the program that we were admitted to, right? Like, it's a hard ball to walk away from, but essentially, if it's going to propel you forward, then there should be no reason to regret it, almost. So, love that sentiment there. So, as addition to that, so you mentioned you don't have to have a college degree to get a job and all that type of stuff. So are you someone who's going rogue or doing your own projects, full entrepreneurship, or are you exploring like corporate roles as well right now?
So not corporate right now, but I really have very little interest in that.
Right.
Truthfully, I see the value in it. I think you get a lot done, but that's personally not my thing. So back in 2022, just to give a little backstory, while I was at the first championship, actually, the owner of the shop that our team works out of, he just started talking to me. He's like, "Oh, my friend who runs this other shop, he got this project from Disney and he wants this robotics thing." And I was like, in my head, I was kind of like, man, I got to focus on what we're doing right now. But then the more I listened to it, I was like, this sounds like an awesome opportunity. I may as well just get involved and start talking to him. And so basically this company in Oxnard, which is close to where I live, he makes composite structures. So for entertainment companies like Disney and Pixar, also does aerospace parts, really big, fiberglass structures, basically is what the company makes. And so they got this project from Disney to recreate the Haunted Mansion ride, but as a train. So rather than on a track, this is a thing that can independently drive around and spin around. I didn't really understand why they wanted it. I didn't get it, but I liked the idea, and I was like, yeah, I could do it. So, we talked back and forth. I talked back and forth with this guy after championship. I put together a quote of what I thought it would cost. I didn't hear back for a long time. I actually got an internship for that summer, assuming that this wasn't going anywhere. And then I get the call, in the middle of the day, "Hey, yeah, Disney accepted the bid. We're going to go do this thing." So that summer I was 9 to 5 internship, 6 to 1 a.m. project. It was brutal, but it was a lot of fun. So this company, basically we manufactured all the robotic components. So did all the electronics, made the drivetrain, all that stuff. And then the other company handled all the composite stuff. We put it together. We went to Disney. They put it on stage for whatever they wanted to do. Right. So I thought that was kind of it. It was cool. I made a cool connection with this guy. Got paid a lot of money. It was cool. And then he reached out to me at the end of last year and was interested in me coming and taking a leadership position at his company. He's getting older and kind of wants someone to kind of drive the company forward. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I started working there part-time in January. Remote, obviously, because I'm here. And yeah, when I was a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'm just done with this school thing, man. I reached out to him and we negotiated, and I was like, yeah, I think this is something I would like to pursue further.
That must have felt really good. I mean, there you go, right? I mean, you built all these skills up, and now you were essentially propelled to what most degree holders would dream about being in like the next 10 years of their life, or maybe 5 years. So
yeah, it's just different. It's like the things I want to do don't necessarily require a degree. That's the way it is. And yeah, okay, if I wanted to do something else, would I need a degree? Potentially. There's a lot of business jobs that still require it, but it's like I've done weighed the pros and cons, and I think that this is the right way to go. Also, it's like, what's the worst that happens, right? If I need a degree, I can always go back.
Always come back, right? That's yeah. They always preach that. So as an add-on to like your experience that you just talked about, would you say that was like your hardest project you worked on, or like what would be the hardest project you've ever worked on?
Hardest, yeah, I would say most, yeah. No, I'll go ahead and say hardest, sure. And the reason is just because it was so in depth it was a small team. It was literally just me. And then I was like, I can't do this, so I need help. So I got my buddy Bryce, who is currently studying electrical engineering at Cal Poly. He's taking a gap year also, hoping to drop out. So there's that. And then I took another one of my friends, Nolan, who's also a Hightide mentor. And he's really good at just like general fabrication. So we kind of got together and I told them what we're doing, and I felt confident in my ability and their ability to get it done. The reason I'd say it's the hardest is because I bid this thing. First of all, I'd never bid a project this high, right? It's like my bid, which it sounds low now, but like my bid was like $55K. Right. And I was like, yeah, now it sounds like, oh, that's a small amount of money.
Enough for one machine.
Dude, at however old I was, 17 or whatever, it was unbelievable, right? I was just, what the heck? Yeah. That's so much money. And I'm supposed to bid it without knowing, ever having done anything similar. So that was difficult. Then it got difficult because Disney just gives you terrible timelines, right? So you don't hear back for 2 months. You don't think it's going to happen. Then one day you get a call, it's happening. And they're like, oh yeah, also like it needs to be done in 6 weeks. And you're like, cool. Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, that was interesting. A lot of just like, you got to crunch on deadlines. There were days we were heading back at 3 a.m., right? Oh, wow. times where electronics are just not working because this was during like the shortage too. So it's like this availability of speed controllers was terrible. Like I could not buy what I needed to buy. I'm ordering stuff from China and paying ridiculous amounts of money to get it, shipped quicker. So it was difficult to hit the deadline, but like extremely rewarding to see it on stage and all that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So in terms of how you balance all these different things from your hobbies to your professional career, how do you have any like strategies when it comes to managing everything? Like, are you a big time block guy? Are you someone that sacrifices sleep? Like, how would you say you're able to get everything done?
No, I'm like, that's probably like the one thing I'm like not very good at actually, which I've been learning to get better at. I downloaded Tick. I'm trying to do Task App and all that stuff. And it's like, I'm not very good at it. Started using Calendar pretty recently actually. So yeah, I've never been that good at it. I just somehow seem to make it work kind of. The cool thing in this case is like a lot of these interests and stuff that I have are kind of business and like money making things. It just happened to be that way. So it's like, when I'm working, it's like I'm doing a lot of the things I love. I have a very few. No, it's not even a few, but I have a number of things that I enjoy doing that are really just for enjoyment. And because I have just, a few and I really enjoy my work, I'm able to fit those in, right? So like I really enjoy surfing, right? That's something I like to do. I make no money of that. I'm really not good enough. I used to compete, never won, so that's not going anywhere, right? I used to be really into archery, right? I had time for that. It's just fun.
Archery.
These are just like fun things that I like to do.
Your little pencil bow, right? Your PVC.
No, I got into legitimate archery. Yes, thank you. But no, it's just like, these are fun things, and when I have time, I go do them. So.
And I remember like last year, I believe, I saw you in class. I asked about boots, and then you gave me this full in-depth rundown of your research when it comes to like leather boots. So you definitely have these like pockets of just like obsessive, like an obsessive nature over like learning about.
I would say that also goes back to the work. This is so cool, right? It's like everything all connects really well, which I think is awesome. It's like I just really like well-made things, whatever it is, right? And when I build things, I like to do it well. And I understand how things are constructed. So when I see things that other people have made or products that are being sold, I judge them really harshly. And it's just because like I think about like, oh, how would I have possibly made that? Right, so yeah, it's like, in terms of like, leather boots, it's like I got really interested in the construction, watched a bunch of videos. I understand how they're made. So now like, it's just like something that I think about,
You think you could ever turn your shop into like a shoemaking
no,
like
man.
A shoemaking garage?
That's like I don't think I could ever do something like that. It's like extremely difficult.
Really?
It's like it's really hard.
Oh, well, that's so funny. Where do you see yourself in the future? I mean, how would you describe like where you ideally want to be in say a short time frame of like 3 years?
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of like tried to script out my whole life. I'm like weird like that. I just like think a lot. I spend a lot of time thinking. This is why half the time I can't sleep because my mind is just thinking about random stuff. In the short term, probably very similar to where I'm going to be next week, right? I'll be working in the company full time. Hopefully taking on more leadership positions, hopefully bringing on more unique projects, maybe some more mechanical stuff. I just signed an apartment lease back in Ventura, so that's cool. Hopefully within the next 3 years, I'm a homeowner, right? So that's the plan. That's a big jump, I think. In terms of like, work life, fun stuff, it's probably all the same. Hopefully get another, world championship win in. I think, next year is a water themed game. And so Hightide better win that, right?
I can't believe that they finally announced it.
Yeah, but it's a water themed game. It's not,
it's not a water game.
No, of course not. No, that'd be ridiculous. But, I think, it's pretty easy to see where I'm going to be in 3 years. I think. I mean, I could totally be wrong. 2 years ago, I would have said I'd still be in college. That's not true. In 10 years, probably similar. Maybe a nicer house. Maybe married by then. Not maybe. Better be married by then.
Okay. Let's go into a closing tradition, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good.
So we have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest asks the next guest a question without knowing who it's for. So the question that's been left for you is, do you strive for happiness? And if not, what do you strive for?
Like in the things I do, I strive for excellence, right? But like personally, do I strive for happiness? Yeah, I think absolutely. It's like I really hate saying like, I don't like quitting, but it's like if something is really taking a toll on you, at some level you kind of have to drop it if it's really affecting you. You know, maybe in the short term you just deal with it, but like there's definitely, you have to weigh your happiness and overall well-being. She's like, that's the way it is.
I feel like it's the meme where like the guy's holding the rope of like something really heavy, and it's like the rope is just like burning his hand, and it's like, what are they holding onto? It's just something heavy. It's not anything worth that much. Yeah. So that's interesting. So you strive for excellence. I love that.
Strive for excellence in what I do with an ultimate goal of happiness.
What would be a question you want to leave the next guest?
Oh man, without knowing who it is, that's so hard. How does anyone do this? You know, without knowing who it is, it's, you know, something like whatever it is that you do, whatever your passion is, like why do you do that? I mean, like on a broader scale, not just like why are you interested, but like what is the ultimate goal of this thing that you're doing, right? And what does it mean to you? And what does it mean to the world, right? Like why is it important to you and more broadly?
How would you answer that yourself?
This is what I was trying to differentiate, but like on the smaller scale, it's like I just like making cool stuff. I want to do that. But the question that I was getting at is like, I want to make things that make an impact in the world. That's why I like making things, both because I just think it's cool, and I like, oh, I made this thing and I use it now. That's really cool. I mean, I think anyone would find that cool. But it's like, no, like I want to make either products or whatever that either make people's lives easier or more enjoyable or somehow impact the world. Right. So it's like, you know, in the entertainment field, it's like, hey, Alan, in the entertainment field, it's like, you know, theme parks is something that our company works on. And it's
theme
like,
parks,
yeah,
oh, right,
yeah,
right.
Like you know, like a ride, right? And it's like building this ride is another piece of entertainment that people can go have fun on, and like that's like a kind of more artificial version. But it's like, yeah, this is I'm somehow impacting people's lives. But you know, I would love to take that a step further. Right. Somehow, I don't know. That's like kind of what my thought process is with anything I do. Say like with Title Tumble, the robotics event, right? It's the same thing. It's like I like this thing, so on a kind of micro level, I just want to do it because I think it's cool. On a broader level, I want to impact more people and let them enjoy this thing that I enjoy so much.
So what I'm hearing from you, I would say, like, if you want to start something, just don't worry about experience, don't worry about anything, just take action, right? Don't think too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're not qualified for it, just go do it. Like, you think you can do it? What's weigh the risk, right? What is the worst that can happen? Are you okay if that happens? Do the thing. That's the end of it. Just do it, man. Yeah, make it happen.
Awesome. Well, Anshul, thank you so much for hopping on here.
Thanks,
I loved everything that you talked about today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And hope that a lot of people just start doing that one thing that they fear so much about. You know, it's all everything in life is all about starting, right? Like use motivation to get those gears going, and use your interest, use discipline to keep it going. You know. Well, thank you so much. I had a blast.
Thanks, man.